Anyway, so I care about this, actually. So let's check this out. This is from The Guardian. Millions in U.S. race against the clock to pay the rent and stave off eviction. All right. Millions of Americans are in a race against the clock to receive rental assistance before the end of the month, when a federal eviction moratorium designed to help people cope during the coronavirus pandemic expires. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention eviction moratorium ends on the 30th of June. Some states will still have local renter protections in place, but in the vast majority of states, rental assistance, an essential lifeline for millions, could arrive too late, according to housing advocates. Isn't this like what a world we live in, right, folks? Like, okay, so there's a pandemic. We won't kick you out of your house. We'll just delay kicking out of your house. And here's the thing. There's an eviction moratorium, not a rent moratorium, which means every month you still have to pay that $1,200 or whatever it is. And so there's going to be people that just have like a fucking $13,000 rent bill that they can't, like, how the fuck? Oh, but Biden gave us $1,400. Wow. That's totally going to help pay my fucking $13,000 rent bill. Thanks a lot, Joe Biden. By the way, is there going to be another stimulus? No? All right, cool. So like this shit is just ridiculous, man. I've been talking about this basically since the pandemic started. And it's a huge problem. And I guarantee you this is going to be a giant fucking issue like next month. Like this time next month there's going to be like millions and millions of fucking homeless people. And the government's not going to help. No one's going to help. And this is why, like, just society is in tatters. Like, again, we've got all these fucking hotels, motels, condominiums, fucking luxury office fucking studios and all that shit. Yet, we still have homeless people? What? We have people that own houses that are just sitting there as fucking, like, real estate investments, right? And we still have homeless people? Like, it's just bizarre. It's strange. But don't get me started here. At this point, it's a race against the clock to try to get the money to the tenants who need it to keep them stably housed when the eviction moratorium expires, said Diane Yentel, president and CEO of the National Low-Income Housing Coalition. In mid-May, 7.49 million U.S. adults said that they were not current on rent or mortgage payments and had slight or no confidence that they can make the next month's payment, according to the Census Bureau's Household Pulse survey. So far, the eviction moratorium has kept many of these families housed. There were about 1.55 fewer eviction cases last year than would be filed in a typical year, according to an estimate by the Eviction Lab. Why don't we just keep that policy in place? Hey, just an idea. Without the moratorium, they will need access to $46.55 billion in rental assistance allocated by the government to help renters and landlords, though its distribution got off to a slow start. On Donald Trump's final day in office, his administration issued guidance which made it more difficult for people to access the program by requiring extensive documentation to prove they qualified. The Treasury Department revised the guideline in March, and then in May issued new rules to make the process easier. I just marinate on this. Trump does something on January 20th. Biden gets in, does all these sweeping executive orders. Oh, yes, Joe Biden. Oh, yes, the executive orders. Look at me. Oh, signing my name on those, all that bullshit. But he didn't make qualifying for rent assistance any easier until last month. And this is why this shit is useless. Like, oh, but Biden's only one person. He's only one person. Okay? With a fucking goddamn entire team of thousands and thousands of people that could draft up a fucking executive order or a rule change that all he has to do is fucking put his signature on. All he has to say is, yeah, we should probably reverse this rule, have some aide type it up, and then he signs it, and boom, you're done. But instead, he waited until May, and now there's going to be millions of people that are... And again, let's assume, best case scenario, everyone's fine. That's not going to happen, but let's just fantasy world, okay? everyone's still going to have to deal with the mental health turmoil of having to worry about not knowing whether or not they're going to have a house next month. That weighs a lot on your conscience. Thinking every single morning, is this the last morning? Are they going to evict me tomorrow? Right? That fucks you up. It fucks you up. Also, let's be honest. If people are worried about being able to pay rent, they're probably not eating well. They're probably not sleeping well. Right? And so, like, there's a lot of other effects that go into hurting a human being when it comes to having a housing problem. And this is why this is so ridiculous. There's no excuse. Joe Biden should have been on top of this as soon as he fucking went into the goddamn fucking White House. But he wasn't, because he's a piece of goddamn dog shit garbage can, man. Yantel said she was confident the money would be moving more efficiently in the next couple of months, but cautioned that there was a strong unlikelihood it would reach all renters and landlords before the federal moratorium expires. The NLIHC has called for the federal moratorium to be extended. Is it going to be, though? Anyone want to place bets? It's already too late for Tiffany Lester, a single mother raising 2 children, 15 and 12, in Jacksonville, Florida. She works as a nursing assistant, and during the pandemic, her hours were cut from more than 40 a week to about 16, leaving her unable to keep up with rent payments this year. Lester, 36, immediately filed for rental assistance when it became available in April. She applied again when more funds were made available in May. She has not received money from either program. United Way of Northeast Florida, which is processing the first round of applications, said it received 6,800 applications. A spokesperson there said that it can take weeks to distribute money through a very detailed and deliberate process, and that Lester was lower on the wait list because of criteria determined by the government. And this is why means testing is garbage. What if you gave everyone money up front, and then, oops, they didn't need all of it. Okay, we'll just scrape it back through taxes. Instead, people, again, am I going to have a house next month? Am I going to have a house next month? Am I going to be able to feed my kids next month? That is not acceptable. I'm sorry. In a society, in a civilization, that is just not acceptable. It is absolutely unacceptable. And it just showcases that we live in a dystopian fucking shithole of a goddamn country. Lester said her landlord had told her they would hold off on filing for eviction if she showed evidence of applying for the assistance. But within 48 hours of sharing that proof, the landlord filed an eviction. It's been a lot of sleepless nights, worrisome days, crying, a lot of tears, Lester said. It's just scary. And then to have the landlord tell you, you haven't even tried to pay us. I'm going to fucking I don't know if I can read the rest of this. Y'all get the gist. If y'all want to read the rest of this article, you can feel free to do so. But again, this is a giant fucking problem. There's no such thing as a good landlord. I'm sorry. You're if you look at a crying single mother with 2 children, barely able to put food on the table, and you think to yourself, see ya, bitch. Right? I've got news for you. You should be in a okay, I'm just letting you know this right now. The best case scenario, right? The best case scenario that I can imagine is you being in a jail cell for the rest of your life. That is a crime against humanity. As far as I'm concerned, putting children on the streets should be punishable by life in prison. It's ridiculous. You do not belong in society. You should be deported to a fucking island and a fucking you know that island that's full of fucking guano, right? That is off on the fucking northwest coast of the United States, right? It's just an empty ass rock with a bunch of bird shit. Yeah, you should go to that motherfucking island, and you should rot on that island until your carcass is fucking simmering in the sun, because you're garbage. You're disgusting. You're evil, and every single fiber of your being is an insult to humanity as a species and as a civilization. That shit is ridiculous. It's disgusting and it's evil, and the government that upholds this kind of bullshit, I'm sorry, man. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I'm going to end this segment here because I can't go on anymore.